Brian Cain. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've lived and worked in entertainment capitals all over the world. I got my start in the tourism sector in Las Vegas from 2010 to 2016. Eventually moved to New Orleans to start Crawl New Orleans. So that was my first time owning. And from there, Crawl New Orleans, Crawl Nashville, Crawl Austin, Crawl London is currently launching, and in that process created Crawl Entertainment Group as the parent company.
I love it. So you've been very successful with the master brand of Crawl Entertainment, and off camera you were telling me about some of the ways that you are iterating those experiences to make your tour accessible to folks, or your brand rather, 7 days a week instead of just on the weekends and Fridays and Saturdays. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've evolved the brand to be more inclusive of a larger demographic of folks who want that kind of bar crawl experience, but maybe a little bit of an elevated experience that isn't, go and just get after it Saturday, Friday night type of a deal, but maybe something at a little bit more of a relaxed pace that has some learning elements and some of the things that we were talking about off camera?
Absolutely, yes. So when we start a new city, we always go directly for nightlife, and that's based on my background in nightlife for such a long time. But as I've aged, I learned that I don't want to be in a nightclub at 10 p.m. on a Friday in the middle of Nashville. So I created a brand called Drinkers and Thinkers, and as of right now, it's a Drinkers and Thinkers pub crawl, which is a drink and learn experience. So in any city that we operated in, you're going to get the opportunity to go in some pubs and bars. Most of those have some sort of link to history, whether that's Prohibition or the oldest building in a city, and then a licensed guide who goes through a pretty meticulous process of being able to be that guide. So you get the entertainment, but you also get some history about the city, and it's a bit of potpourri. So you're going to learn probably some really funny and slightly inappropriate things about the city that you might not know about, but also how the city was formed and just iterations of it over time to where it sits today. And it will always be ever changing, because as more history happens, we like to put current events and things that happened recently, so it can tie back to news and just 2024 or 2025 or any date in the future. I
love that. So you're in 3 cities: New Orleans, Nashville, Austin, and now internationally with the expansion in London. How do you pick a city? Is it gut? Is it art and science? A little bit of both? Like what makes you go to the next beachhead?
So there's definitely a little bit of an art to it. One, data is everything. So I started in New Orleans specifically because I know that it's a party city, it's a walkable city, and it has a ton of history and culture, and arguably for me the most cultured city in the country. So that was the reason I started there. And then from there, kind of, tourism trends. So having lived in Vegas when it grew exponentially, I'm always kind of looking for what is the next city, because most people don't want to go back to the same place over and over again. So the expansion into Nashville was a bit natural, because we did it at the time a lot with bachelor and bachelorette parties, and that was just growing so fast. So that was the reason for that expansion. But now, it's cities that I think that are obviously really high in tourism levels year round, but also because of the evolution of the business into the educational entertainment side. Cities like New York and Denver, even St. Augustine definitely have some.
St. Augustine's awesome. Yeah, oldest city in the country, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah. So things like that, where people want to go, they want to enjoy themselves, but they also want to learn about how the city came to be.
That's really cool. So we also talked about you branching off into media, and I seem to find that as a trend for a few different operators here at the conference. They either started as influencers and then launched operator brands and experiences from their social media following and their influencer business as they aged up and their demographics changed, and not wanting to be 24/7 in front of the camera. They wanted a sustainable business model that they could build, scale, maybe exit someday, that didn't require them to create videos 7 days a week. And then I've also seen the opposite. I've seen some operators that were forced to become content creators during COVID because their operations were shut down, and they needed ways to continue to keep the lights on, stay sharp at their craft, as you talked about with the tour guides. And they just went out and started doing tour guides, by themselves to people on social instead of the 10 or 20 people that used to pay them in the past. I liken that a little bit to being the Peloton instructor of tour guides, right? They can do it digitally and reach more people and then figure out a way to monetize after the fact. You have an interesting model because you're not necessarily an influencer, but you built a huge network of properties and tours now in multiple cities, and now you're seeing the value of actually building media brands attached to some of those assets that can then serve as a marketing engine or potentially other opportunities. So can you maybe talk a little bit about your strategy and how you're approaching brand as publisher, for lack of a better word?
Yes. So interestingly enough, I attempted to be an influencer
Nice.
years ago. After having I lived in Las Vegas a long time, like I mentioned earlier, but I had the opportunity to work in Ibiza, Spain, and Gold Coast, Australia.
Wow.
And so in between that, I started traveling and essentially talking to a camera. So you can definitely look that up. I think there's probably only 500 people in the world that know about it. So, but definitely some videos of myself in some crazy places. India specifically has some crazy videos.
Wow.
So I've always been comfortable speaking in front of the camera.
Yep.
And then when I switched to being a legitimate business owner, it was no longer about Brian in front of a camera. It was, how do we grow this brand and make something that other people can really enjoy outside of creating content. But ultimately, everyone is a media company to some degree today.
Sure.
And you can see, like we talked about Dave Portnoy, I'm a big Barstool fan. He grew this empire out of nothing and him talking in front of a camera. So I think that for people that are comfortable talking about what they do or providing value for free in general, it's a win-win. One, the listener gets some sort of value, but ultimately attention on the owner of the brand or the brand itself via this medium, I think is really beneficial. So that's why I'm leaning into it now.
I love it. So your marketing mix, how much do you leverage user-generated content, influencers, relationships with media properties or meme pages, stuff like that, social audiences, versus like an in-house production company or agency or UGC from your own customers? What's the breakdown of how you think about content creation?
So I would actually like to work with more influencers. As of today, we have worked with a few. Most of those kind of come through as the inquiry, hey, I'm coming to New Orleans, we're influencers, this is our following. Can you help us? My answer is always yes, so please reach out.
Nice.
And then through that, we do a lot of UGC. We ask our customers questions on tour. We did, like we talked about earlier, just launched kind of a new brand called Crawl Confessions, where we ask people questions on the tours after they had a few beverages, which has been a lot of fun. But as far as like user-generated reviews is really big.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And so definitely we do that as far as asking people for reviews written, because it helps with the rankings of any one of the businesses in each city, but specifically asking people about their time with us and then using that and leveraging that into paid social ads to generate more traffic, and just a higher conversion rate comes from that type of content in general. But at this point, I would say it's probably 80% user-generated from our tour guides to the guests versus user-generated on their behalf where they just want to do it. And then 20% influencers. But again, we haven't really put a program together where we reach out to them specifically.
So it's all been just folks that reach out to you organically. They want to check it out. That's cool. I mean, look, that's organic. I often tell people that waiting for people to reach out to you isn't a strategy, because you don't know if those are the right people. But it is, it's a start for sure.
Right, absolutely.
So, we've heard a lot about the growth of the experiences sector. Travel in general is finally back to pre-pandemic levels, up 1%. So we're 1% back from where we started before COVID, but the experiences category is up 40%. It seems like where most of the growth is happening in the sector. My experience as a first-timer to Arrival and as a first-time observer of the travel endemic side of the marketing industry, that this also seems like the most fractured part of the marketing mix. a lot of SMB, a lot of small operations, up to very big ones like yourself, but also seems like the most ripe for opportunity and innovation. How do you see your side of the travel industry from some of those takeaways?
So, I think it's really interesting what happened during COVID. There are a lot of us operators that actually grew during that time, which sounds so crazy, but there was this crazy demand to get out of the house. And so I think certain markets really were able to thrive during that time. For us specifically in New Orleans, being able to drink outside definitely allowed us to still operate even within the restrictions. It was interesting, right?
You were able to innovate through them. Yep.
Exactly. So there was definitely a lot of even like week to week things that changed. So for a brand like mine, we definitely grew. Exponentially, yes, but we were a very new business as this all happened. We hadn't even been in our first full fiscal year when the world shut down. So, we were definitely able to grow, and then it set us up for the opportunity to expand. I think 25 and 2026, we're going to see a lot of growth specifically in experiences, right? I think with the social media age and everyone sharing their experiences, I mean, it's almost like a badge of honor.
Everybody wants that moment where they can capture it on camera or film.
Exactly. So, years ago when I started traveling, we wanted the passport stamp, right? Now we don't get it because you get scanned in with your eyeballs into a new country.
Right.
But now it's the photo or the video on your Instagram feed or on your TikTok feed of you being in said city.
That's a great insight, I think. Yeah.
So I think that, when someone goes to, let's say Greece and goes on a boat party, now everyone sees, oh wow, when I go to Greece, I need to go on a boat party, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity there that's going to drive the experience sector of travel into the future.
I love it. Brian, anywhere you want to point people to learn more about your various enterprises inside of your holding company, and or how should people connect with you directly if they want to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is crawlentertainment.com. It's more about informational on, hey, this is where we operate. And then through that, you're able to click on any one of the cities that we do for more information and to be able to book tours. And then all of our socials, Crawl Entertainment Group on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. And then most recently, I would have to push our Crawl Confessions. It's really worth a laugh to see the things that people admit after they've been on a nightlife tour in all the cities that we operate. It really is. It's a pretty good laugh.
I love it. Well, thanks so much, man. Appreciate you coming on the show, and enjoy the rest of your time here in San Diego.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dylan.
Cheers.